it's Mike Israel here from Graveleur. Just thought I'd do a bit of a video to explain my bike setup for Terra Australis now that I'm back. I saw Lockie Morton did a really great video, so yeah, I'd like to do something similar and let everybody know what I had on my bike and setup. So I'll start with the bike. Basically based on the giant XTC 29er frame. It was a frame I picked up fairly cheaply off Facebook. I first rode the giant XTC 29er back in 2012, I think. It was my first 29er mountain bike, and I really enjoyed riding the bike back then. And I thought it would make a great platform as an adventure bike. So, you know, an adventure bike being a bike that you can pretty much take anywhere on a long bike packing trip. Things that didn't quite work with this frame, obviously it's a little short on bosses, being a cross-country race bike frame. Yeah, not a lot of bosses to put cages and things on, but I managed to wangle my way through that. And the front triangle was a little smaller than I expected. I do have another mountain bike hardtail frame that has a very small front triangle, but still this pretty much worked. You can see I've got this little frame bag here. It may look small, it's a specialised Burra frame bag, but you can actually fit quite a bit in there. So yeah, it did the job, it worked quite well. So other things about the bike, obviously flat bars. I've got these ergon grips with the two different positions, hand positions. SLX, Shimano SLX brakes, they're actually 4-pot brakes. I just wanted that extra braking power with all the weight on the bike, especially as we're going to be doing some fairly, some fairly steep descents and things. And then of course I've got my aero bars on here, which is a great way to travel on a bike like this, just getting nice and low and aero. Why the flat bars? Well, it's just more comfortable for longer riding like that. I don't think really drop bars and road levers are appropriate for a ride like that. You want to be giving your hands as much rest as possible, and throughout the ride my hands were really comfortable. I had no pain or issues with my hands during the whole 3 weeks that I was out there. Rigid fork, yeah, I found that was pretty good. Obviously I was pretty high attention to detail with my tyre pressure, so I was running probably between 20 and 25 psi. And the front wheel, you can see it's a DT rim with a Dynamo, SP Dynamo hub. Yeah, coming back to the drivetrain, so it was a 10-by drivetrain, XTR Derailleur, 10-speed. It's an old drivetrain that I've been using for many years, and has been super reliable. Again, budget-wise, I didn't want to spend too much money on the bike, so I was able to recycle those parts, and it worked really well. I replaced the chain once over that 3,500 K that I did, but yeah, other than that it worked really well. It's an old Australis, there's no clutch, so hence the chain keeper here. It's an E13 chain keeper. It's a 34 tooth front chain ring and 11 to 42 on the back. Yeah, tyres, Maxxis tyres. I've always really rated the Maxxis mountain bike tyres. Just never had any issues with punctures. I was running them tubeless, of course. Probably pulled out my pump maybe twice over that 3 weeks, just to put a little bit of extra air in at times. Yeah, I had 4 positions, 4 bottles. So I had 2 1-litre bottles on the fork either side, one either side, and 2 600ml bottles here, where I've got, this is a, I forget what they're called now, but the mounting brackets that work, so you can have two cages either side of the down tube, and that worked quite well. So this is sort of more storage, water storage, although I could still pull these bottles out. These are Zine cages, work really nicely. Never dropped a bottle over any of the rough terrain. And just a couple of simple Bontrager cages here with my smaller bottles. And they were basically my go-to bottles while I was riding. Okay, so onto my sleep system. So my sleep system I kept in this this bar bag, this very large, I think it's about a 13-14 litre Ortlieb bar bag. Super rugged, you know, you can stuff whatever you want into this bag, lots of space. It has straps under here where you can tighten up just to make it all nice and compact, suited to whatever you want to use. One thing I would say is that this netting on the front is not very useful, and I actually had quite a bad catastrophe, almost a crash, where I had a jacket in here and it gradually fell out and fell into the front wheel, and it destroyed my front rotor. So I had to ride about 70 k's. Luckily it was only 70 k's with just a back brake. I had to take the rotor off and ride without front brakes for a little while. So one thing I would like to do, I haven't seen any products anywhere, but some sort of netting or some sort of cage where you can put jackets and things for easy access on the front here would be really good. So yeah, the sleep system. So in the front here I had, this is a Cedar Summit thermo sleeping bag liner. As I was in very warm country, I didn't really need a full sleeping bag, so that was really handy. Slept in that most nights. I also took my ever faithful emergency sole bivy bag. This was really good as an extra layer of warmth, so I could use the merino sleeping bag liner inside my sole bivy, and that would give me enough warmth during the night. You know, granted I was in fairly warm climes, and there were some times when I was a bit cold. I had to put on some extra clothes, but that worked quite well and gave me some extra options, because I also had this Outdoor Research, the helium bivy bag. So this is obviously waterproof, really tough ripstop materials. It's quite a good design. There's a few little things about it that annoy me. The fly net doesn't work very well. The zippers are sometimes hard to open because toggles get in the way. And it doesn't breathe very well. If you zip it all up without using the fly, I found I almost felt like I was suffocating inside this bivy. So as I say, a few things that aren't quite perfect, but it's super light, it squishes up into a nice small bundle, and it does give you that protection from the weather. So I could actually use these two, my emergency bivy bag with the thermo sleeping liner inside this Outdoor Research bivy. So it gave me lots of options for sleeping. And finally my Cedar Summit, my ever faithful Cedar Summit ultralight thermo mat. It's a full-size mat. It blows up really easy. I've been using this for 5 or 6 years. Very comfortable mat, and it really does insulate you from the ground. The only thing I will say is it's quite prone to punctures. It now has 3 patches on it. So you've got to be really careful with these mats. They say they're puncture resistant, but I have found they puncture quite easily. Yeah, so that's the only thing I'd say about that. And I also had a Cedar Summit pillow. Yeah, again, I really like a pillow, so that was my sleep system. Just some of the other gear I had on my bike. This Apidura top tube bag was fantastic. The zippers are really high quality, they work really well, and they're really easy to open even when your fingers are frozen. Inside this bag I basically had my wipes, I had some gels. I did actually use quite a few gels, particularly when my energy was quite low. So I could carry like up to 20 gels in this bag. And I also had electronics in this bag. So you'll see here, this is actually a Belkin 20,000 milliamp battery. So I would use that to charge my phone and my Hammerhead head unit. And I would charge this battery off the dynamo during the day. I actually had to replace this battery. I did have a 10,000 milliamp battery from JCar. Somewhere near the end I misplaced it, I lost it, I dropped it, I'm not sure what I did with it. So I ended up getting this 20,000 battery in Bangalore, actually, from a newsagent. And it's a beauty. I can charge my phone at least 4 times with this one. Yeah, so I'm really happy with that. So all that electronics just sat in there. Down in this bag was more food. So I often had a number of different tubes of electrolyte tabs, just to keep my electrolytes up each day. And I could fit heaps of food in here. Like you can see, I still got some muffin bars and cake bars and things. I could fit candy bars in here. I could fit 3 or 4 packets of candy. Be it, I liked licorice all sorts, and snakes, of course, and all that sort of stuff. So heaps of energy constantly coming through. So that bag's really great. Again, it's a very old bag that I've been using for a number of years. It would have been nice to have a full frame bag, but again, budget-wise, I've already got a frame bag that fits on my gravel bike. I didn't want to spend more money on yet another bag, so yeah, I just made do. And I had space here on another cage for my spares. So in my spares keg, I had my Lazine multi-tool, which came in handy for lots of things. A roll of insulation tape that's again just handy to have. A spare cable, a hanger, spare tube, and a pair of pliers in there which had a spare quick link on it, as well as a pair of pliers for, like, not pliers but specialist tool for opening quick links, which of course you can't do these days by hand. And it also works as a tie lever, so that tool is really handy. Let's see if I can pull it out. Yeah, it's from it's called Granite is the brand. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but you can see it's got tie levers, the ends for opening a quick link, and the quick link is stored between the levers. So they are my spares. Pretty lean on the spares, but I don't, tend to get a lot of punctures. So yeah, that was that. I also had 2 feed bags here. You can see one here. These are just cheap, pretty cheap and nasty little feed bags. I'd like to get some bigger ones, but these did work quite well. So again, I sort of kept little salamis, bars, all sorts of food in these bags. They're also handy, if one was empty, particularly this one on the left, I could put a big bottle of Maximus or Gatorade or something there, that I could drink while I was riding, something a bit cooler to drink. Maximus these days are doing frozen bottle. You can get a frozen bottle of Maximus from the servo, and I could just squeeze it into one of these bags. Again, I'd probably like to replace these at some point with something a bit better. The side pockets, on this side I had my lube, which wasn't enough. I needed a bigger lube bottle. And I've always got on this side, because you're laying your bike down drive side up, I like to have my hand sanitizer and my sunscreen on the same side as the drivetrain, just so I can easily access that stuff. If I'm off the bike and I've laid the bike down, I quickly put on some sunscreen or some sanitizer. So they're quick access. That is a fairly small container of sunscreen. I had a bigger tube of sunscreen in my backpack, which I could refill this container with. And over on this side, on the other side here, I had a packet with all my tabs. So you can see I've got some Imodium there that was helping me with my gut issues. some micropur tabs, some pain relief if I needed it. This is a military grade Ziploc bag. Again, I've had it for years and it doesn't sort of decay and get all crinkly like your standard sandwich bags. This is really strong plastic, works really well, waterproof. The other thing I had in the side pocket here was a regular 3mm Allen key. Multi-tools are great, but sometimes you can't always get to every single screw on your bike with a multi-tool. So I had that 3mm Allen key in my bag just as a convenience, and I did actually use that to refocus my lights a couple of times. Yeah, a couple of things I needed that for, so that was really good. I don't normally like running a backpack, but in this case, as you can see, I was a little short on storage on the bike. So this backpack was imperative. I really had to have it. One, to carry more food. So in the main area here, I typically carried, I haven't got much in here anymore, but I would be carrying porridge. There are still a few satchels of porridge. I had some freeze-dried, these Radix Nutrition freeze-dried meals that I found on the internet were fantastic, really tasty, really filling. You know, over 20, nearly 30 grams of protein in that one there, smoky barbecue. Yeah, so they were fantastic. Other meals I had were, like I'd just get a noodle cup with, and put a couple of tins of tuna in. And I did all this with my little gas burner here. So it's very small. This just screws on to a little canister of gas. I had honey. I went through lots of packets of honey with my wraps. I always had a packet of wraps with me. The wraps are great because they fold up nice and small and flat and don't take much space. But yeah, I just have a little gas canister with my burner, and I had a little container. Let me get this. Sorry to disappear off camera. But I had this terrific Seed Summit pot where I could boil water with a bowl as well, and I had a spork. So a little bit of extra weight, but well worth the wait. I really enjoyed cooking my meals, whether it be porridge for breakfast or one of the freeze-dried meals or heating up some noodles. All I needed, the gas hob, was to boil the water. And away I went, so that was really good. The other thing about the backpack was I could hang lots of things off it. So I've got this is a little day pack that folds up, as you can see, into a little bag. Great for shopping. So if you hit Aldi and you just want to grab a bunch of stuff, you can just fill up that day pack. And I could actually wear both backpacks at once, which was terrific. Just if I had some extra food on board and I didn't have time to sort it out straight away or wanted to eat it a bit later. This is my Cedar Summit pillow. And then on the other side here, this is a Nog headlamp, rechargeable headlamp. Really great. I would just wear that around my neck at night time. So each time the sun was setting, I'd sort of do a costume change. I'd change my glasses. So I had 2 pairs of glasses, my sunglasses during the day and a clear pair of pop glasses for night. Thankfully I didn't lose any of my glasses during the ride. I was always pretty paranoid about that. These pockets on the waist belt I could put rubbish in. Yeah, so they took a crazy amount of rubbish, so it was really good just to be able to tuck that straight in. You can see I've got a couple other pockets on the side here. I've got some Hydrolite in there. Yeah. Oh, and then in this front pocket, so there's my slightly bigger tube of sunscreen. I had my my wall plug in here. This is a, so I can find it, deodorant. Here's some Bushman repellent, pretty handy. And yeah, can't find, I have three-way wall plug for charging things when I had access to power. In this little zip pocket here, I had my Leatherman. Again, really handy just for opening packets, food packets and things. When your fingers are tired and you can't rip something open. I even had a nail clipper. I hate having long nails, so I could clip my nails once a week. So there's my little Leatherman, and a Swiss Army knife as well. Great just for spreading and cutting up things. Yeah, so that all stayed in there nice and safe in that zipped up pocket. And that's my backpack. Okay, so for my last little segment here, I'm going to talk about my saddlebag and my clothing. I've got a pile of clothing here. So this is my little toiletries bag. This also went in my backpack. It had a bunch of cables. I actually took an Android phone. I've always been iPhone, but for this one I wanted everything to be USB-C chargeable. So I swapped to the other side, went Android, and that worked pretty well. So didn't have to take too many cables. I did lose a couple of cables along the way, so I had to replace a few cables. I had some bepanthen in here, talking about chamois cream, bit of a diversion. I'll come back to that. I'll do a whole section on my backside and saddles and chamois cream. Toothbrush, toothpaste, bit of shampoo, probably overkill, but yeah, that's quite a handy little satchel just to chuck things in. Clothing wise, so most of this stuff I was either wearing or in my saddlebag. So I've got this full waterproof POC jacket. It's really nice to wear. Even it breathes really well. Got the hood, of course. You can zip it up. So yeah, very handy jacket. I had this nice long sleeve under jersey. This is something that I tried to just keep nice and clean and for sleeping in. I had this POC Gillette. Really nice just for cool mornings. Unfortunately, this also fell into my rotor and got a few holes in it, but it's still okay. My jacket wasn't so lucky. I end up wearing these shorts most of the time, these Fox Enduro shorts. Very comfortable, just the right size for me. That was the only reason I really took them. And the pockets are fantastic. So it's got two front pockets here, which are really great just for sticking a packet of candy in or something. And then it's got this pocket here, which is really easy to get into, but nothing can hop out. So I just sort of put my AirPods in here or my phone or something if I just needed it handy. On the other side here was a zip pocket, and I kept a little packet of credit cards and cash in there, just so I always knew where it was. So I actually wore that just with straight undies most of the day. You can see I've got this Brooks number 17 saddle. It's fully broken in, super comfortable, and that's, yeah, I just found that really good, and I hardly had any saddle sores at all. I also wore this POC very light merino t-shirt. This was basically what I wore every day on the bike. Unfortunately, it did get a tear in the sleeve on the very first day. I was on the old telegraph track and it was super narrow, lots of trees, it was overgrown, and I got snagged up on a tree. So yes, sadly I was riding for most of the event with a torn sleeve. So yeah, to my saddle pack, see I've got my thong, my flip-flops tied on there. These toe straps, I often kept my towel rolled up in here, almost like a mini swag. I had a towel, a tea towel, I could hang my socks off here, so I had two pairs of socks. There was always one pair of socks drying. Keeping your socks dry and clean and keeping your feet dry and clean, really important. I did start to get a bit of trench foot in the first couple of days with all the creek crossings, and realised I need to really look after my feet a lot better. So thankfully that didn't go any further. So yeah, if I just open this bag again, this is a very old Barra bag. It's easy to take off. You just undo these two clips and undo the Velcro strap on the seat post, and the whole bag comes off, which I really like. So you can actually just, if you're at a hotel, you can just pop that off and just take that straight up to the hotel. So in here, first aid kit. That's down the bottom, so hopefully you never need it, but usual sort of stuff, bandages. It was really handy. I even have some sandwich bags and cable ties in here because it wasn't full. So anything that wasn't full, you can fill it up, get more space. And then this is my waterproof bag. So this is all the rest of my clothing. So down jacket, this is a really old Berghaus down jacket that I inherited, and you can see it's now dead. It got severely damaged when it fell off my handlebar bag and fell into the front wheel and went through the front rotor. So unfortunately that has to be retired. It's been an amazing jacket. Really sorry to see that one go. Some thermal tights, again really nice for sleeping in. I even rode in those a few mornings when it was really cold, but there were a couple of mornings where it was below 5 degrees and I just chucked those on. Little sport towel came really in handy for all sorts of things. A tea towel, I hadn't planned to take that. It somehow snuck into one of my throwaway bags that I threw away when I got to the start. That ended up being really handy as well, just for washing, cleaning, wiping down stuff. I did take some nicks. These are my favourite cargo nicks, and I wore these maybe a third of the time. I wouldn't recommend wearing them under shorts because the sweat tends to just gather under the shorts and everything just gets wet and because it can't evaporate away. But yeah, I think having shorts and undies and a pair of nicks is a really good way of sort of swapping every few days, and it just gives the different parts of your rear end a rest. So I think that's really how I avoided any terrible saddle sores, particularly considering I had quite a few issues in that area. Gloves, I took my old favourite Specialized body geometry gloves. They're really old and they're really comfy, and again, no hand issues. Cap. Took a couple of caps, so this was a nice warm pop cap that I could sleep in or put on under my helmet if I got cold. So the glove. Had this long sleeve jersey, again, lots of different layers and options that worked well. What else have I got in here? That's my other pair of socks. Gloves, obviously hands are super important to keep those nice and warm. So I had this pair of long finger gloves, which was the only bit of clothing that I didn't use. They're not thermal gloves, but again, long finger gloves can be quite useful. And then I had these pair of rougher merino undergloves, so I could wear these under my short finger gloves, and I did that quite a few mornings when it was cold as well. That saddle and chamois cream. I think the thing about chamois cream is that a lot of them are very light types of creams. They're great for one-day rides, but they don't tend to last very long. They tend to soak in, evaporate, disappear after a few hours. And that's why I'm using the Bepanthen. It's a nappy rash cream, but it's an antiseptic cream, so it's keeping things really clean. Just particularly on your perineum and your groin. I find it just works really well, and it's quite a thick cream, so it doesn't disappear after a couple of hours in the saddle. It's there all day. It works almost as a barrier cream. I love this saddle. I was a bit dubious about taking it as it's not the lightest of saddles. In the end, I was just so happy on this saddle, this Brooks number 17 saddle. Can't recommend it highly enough. Yeah, so I think that's about it. The other thing I'd say is make sure you've got super comfy pads here on your aero bars. I've actually got two. I've got two pads because when you spend so much time on them, they do get compressed, and you don't want your elbows resting on metal edges, you know, that are underneath on these elbow bars. So yeah, couple of those, and this was my water filter. That was quite a good way just to strap it on. So I had my 3 litres there with the filter on the end of the bladder. That's a Catadin beer-free water filter. As you know, I did end up getting some contaminated water into my system. So yeah, I need to review how I manage the water. I think that's it. Any questions? Put them in the comments below. Go on, get up. Get up. Go on.